Let's go over my first 500 rounds with the M&P Carry Comp. From the B-roll footage you're going to watch, this firearm is outfitted a little bit differently than what you're going to see. Let me explain why. Originally, I had the Trijicon SRO and the TLR7A on there. The reason for having the TLR7A is because on the Surefire X300, I needed to have a U plate and all I had was my A plate. I unfortunately lost the original one, the flashlight came with, so I had to order another one and wait for it to come in. And then I had the Trijicon SRO on there instead of this RMR. The reason I switched out the SRO to the RMR was mostly due to holster compatibility. This was the original Safariland holster I had in the B-roll footage you are watching. Safariland doesn't make a dedicated holster for the Trijicon SRO and the M&P series, so I had to try to modify the ALS system that goes inside of the holster. I modified the holster enough to where I could get it to fit. As you can see, I had to remove some of the top here, and then I had to pretty much Dremel down a majority of the ALS system. So after modifying the ALS system, I wasn't having a fitment issue anymore. I was mostly having an issue with the gun getting stuck inside of the holster. Whenever I would have the gun in the holster and I would go to draw it, I would either have to deactivate the ALS system and yank really hard, or I would have to deactivate the ALS system and I would have to tilt the pistol a little bit to the left, and that would come out no problem with no excessive force. So the reason I threw on the RMR instead of the SRO is because I still wanted to use the other Safariland holster I had without modifying it, and I didn't want to compromise this one too much to where it was unusable. The first initial range day, I spent mostly just getting comfortable with the firearm. There was a little bit of a learning curve whenever it comes to the trigger and the way this thing fit in my hand. So I didn't run any crazy drills or anything like that. I mostly just got comfortable with the firearm itself. I shot some groups with different ammo types, and then I also worked on reloads because, as I also mentioned in the introduction video, this magwell has almost no flare to it, and it's going to be a learning curve coming from a Glock. So I spent a lot of time trying to learn this magwell. Speaking of magazines, I have 6 of them. The ones that are labeled F1 and F2 are the ones that the gun shipped with. The F stands for factory. A1 through 4, that stands for abused. These are the ones that I purchased myself. The reason that I only purchased 4 is because these magazines are pretty expensive, and I think 6 will do just fine for a typical range day. Other than trying to get comfortable with the firearm and get comfortable with the trigger, spoiler alert, I love the trigger inside of the Carry Comp. I did take it out to 50 yards, and I was able to get consecutive hits at 50 yards. And then I did take it out to 100 yards, and I was able to make a couple of impacts at 100 yards, not consecutive though. One of my buddies suggested as I do my range day updates, I give an enthusiasm level if it dwindles or if it increases or stays about the same throughout my range sessions with the firearm. I will say my enthusiasm levels were through the roof whenever I took this out for the first range session. I'd also like to give a big shout out to my buddy Andrew at Heritage Firearms, who hooked me up with really good pricing on this thing, so a big shout out to him. Like I said, no major malfunctions. The only issues I had were with the holster, but that's mostly self-inflicted and compatibility issues. Let me know what your opinions are on the Smith & Wesson Carry Comp, and let me know what kind of content and training you want to see me do with the Carry Comp in the comments.